Hey everybody, it's Steve with Real Progressives. So at last we have a practical, real-life example of all the economics that I've been talking about for forever. And what is more troubling to me than John Oliver coming out and talking a bunch of, putting a bunch of holes in Jill's plan is that Jill's supporters and Bernie's supporters were incapable of actually defending her or correcting John Oliver in a meaningful way other than saying sell out and corporate asshole and what a jerk, man, and all this stuff. And the problem is, this is why we as a nation continue to fail. This is a huge reason why we never make progress. Not just because the naysayers don't want to hear what we have to say, but because the supporters don't understand what just happened in front of their face. And that's the bigger problem here. That is the real problem. We don't know how to defend our own people, so we can't make progress. When the enemy attacks, it's not good enough to scream at the world and say, they're a sellout. It's not good enough. It's not good enough, and it isn't going to get the job done. Jill was wrong. Hear me now. Jill was wrong. Jill is wrong. But not for the reasons you think she's wrong. The problem is, who controls spending? That's right, Congress. Quantitative easing, shifting debt around, this, that, and the other. Folks, that is really not what needs to happen here, though it could be a part of the package if Congress wrote a law that said, we want to do away with student debt. Then they could do such things. But the problem is that once that money, think about it, there's companies like FIA, there's companies like Nelnet that are private entities that receive the money from the loan service that is actually a big part of what it is that we're dealing with when it comes to private sector revenues. Not public sector, private sector. In other words, the sector we inhabit. When that money is paid from your loans, those loan servicing companies get a cut of that. It's a small percentage, but they get a cut of that. And there's a bunch of your friends and neighbors that actually get paychecks from that. So they are not a government entity. They are just a loan servicing company that acts as like a pseudo government entity, but they are not a government entity. So the real deal is this. John Oliver came out there, said a whole bunch of stuff. He was technically correct in the sense that Jill Stein, if she was elected president, couldn't wave a magic wand and tell the Federal Reserve quantitatively ease our students out of debt. That couldn't happen. That is not the way that would happen. But what Jill Stein could do, and what I've been advocating, what many of you all are trying to learn, and I thank you for that, is the fact that we need to put pressure on Congress to spend on the 99%. Once that money is relieved of the regular human beings like us, let's say they were able to relieve that debt. If we stop payments, if we stop those payments altogether, and I'm not talking about from us, it doesn't matter where they come from, it could be the government sovereignly spending to pay off those debts. It could be any number of things. But at the end of the day, our Congress is the keys to this. And it starts to make you wonder what it will take for people to stop holding on to screaming about the Rothschilds, although they're probably terrible people, and start focusing on actionable economics. Congress can easily deficit spend this right away without any problem at all. Without any problem at all. But trying to solve debt problems in the population, trying to solve economic woes in the population by using the Federal Reserve is like pushing a string uphill. It's not how it works. That's not what it's for. That's not how we do it. That's not how you do it. That's not the right way of doing it. That's not how you should view the world. Congress has to write a bill. Once Congress writes a bill, they in turn will tell whoever it is that has to execute that bill their orders. They'll send those orders to the Federal Reserve, who then will act on Congress's word. But you all, and the Fed, instead of forcing Congress to behave, this is why we can't have nice things. Not because John Oliver did what John Oliver does, but because our own supporters don't know how to answer this. Just calling it like I see it, folks. To have a revolution, we've got to be intellectual. We've got to be smart. It's not enough just to be angry. It's not enough. It's a good start. You should be angry, but you should know why you're angry. I sent an article around. And for those people who are guilty of what I'm about to say, forgive me, I'm not calling you out. You'll remain anonymous. But I sent an article out from Market Watch, a publication I don't normally read because they normally don't have the greatest information. But I sent an article around from Market Watch that broke down exactly the right answers for how to handle this. Scott Fulwiler, who's a brilliant economist, Rohan Gray, who's a friend of mine, who I talked to the other day, who I owe an email to. Rohan, if you're listening, I owe you an email. But they answered a great article that talked about how to handle this. And unfortunately, many won't read it. Many saw this article and they saw the picture of John Oliver and they just started screaming with their pitchforks. They just started screaming with righteous anger, talking about the Rothschilds and stuff. Folks, we're never going to make any progress, ever, if you guys don't want to learn, if you choose to stay stuck. And I'm sorry, I got a haircut, a couple of them. My nose itches now. Sorry about that. If you get what I'm saying, if you understand that Congress is the key, our job is to get Congress to act on our behalf. But in order to get Congress to act on our behalf, I've got to get you all to understand, so you demand it from your Congress. And since you don't understand what I'm saying most of the time, and unfortunately economics bores people so they skip over it, we're doomed because of apathy and idiocy. Combine idiocy with apathy, and you've got no progress. And we got full of it. Lots of idiocy, lots of apathy. And I've been so angry, so bitterly angry for the people that I consider to be brothers and sisters of revolution, who are too engaged, too in love with talking about the Rothschilds. Too in love with it, everything. Yeah, they're in the bed with the Rothschilds. They're so in love with saying stupid things that are not actionable at all, that they fail to understand what is actionable. And the Fed! Why? What are you talking about? Do you know what you're talking about? If you don't, I'm here to skewer you just for fun. That's where it's at, folks. I'm going Darth Vader. Forget Obi-Wan, man. I'm going full Darth Vader, the dark side. Because I'm so angry that we choose to stay stuck in idiocy and ignorance. This is on us. Make no mistake about it. John Oliver was doing what John Oliver does. Be a shill for the friggin' establishment. Where were we, the revolution? Where was the revolution to answer these things? The revolution was busy screaming Rothschilds. And the Fed! I mean, you talk about a gunshot wound to the junk. I mean, that's what that is. A gunshot wound to the junk. Folks, first of all, number one, the United States is monetarily sovereign, full stop. The Federal Reserve is private within the government. Its charter comes from Congress. Anything other than that, you're lying. Full stop. Anything other than that, and you're wearing tinfoil in the wrong way. I dig my tinfoil, but I like it tilted slightly to the left. You guys seem to like it just all over the place. Get some style to your tinfoil. You know, get some pizzazz to your tinfoil. Make some horns and stuff like that. Stop with the Rothschild stuff. It's not helping. It isn't. Yeah, I mean, hate them, whatever, get all excited about it. But the fact is, you need to start thinking so we can fight this revolution together. So, United States is monetarily sovereign. The second thing, in 1971, Tricky Dick took us off the gold standard. What did that do? Back in the old days, you had a pie of gold. It was this big around. And everybody's dollar was a slice in the pie of gold. Okay? You could ask for your dollars to be returned in gold. Hey, I want gold back. It was called convertible currency back then. Well, when he took us off the gold standard, there was no more finite pie. Now it was about, do we have real goods, real services, real actual productivity that we can spend money on? The full faith and credit of the United States. Your taxes don't fund spending, but they keep the value of the dollar up. You guys don't listen to me. You ignore that. You talk Rothschilds, 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 Rothschilds. Rothschilds, Rothschilds. And you get nowhere except embarrass the movement. Shame the movement. Cock block progress. You're like the kid that keeps waking up after you think they've gone to bed and you get to have a little fun finally. You're like that kid that comes out sucking his thumb going, what are you guys doing? That's what you're doing when you do the Rothschild stuff. Stop it now. Focus on Congress. Let's get some progress. So, back at the ranch. We're no longer on a convertible currency. We're monetarily sovereign. That means that your taxes, federal taxes, what? That's right, they don't fund spending. Your taxes purge excess reserves. So you got double entry accounting, you got credit in, credit out. One's pouring it in, one's taking it out. Pouring in, taking out. Pouring in, taking out. Okay? We're not recycling. Here's some crumpled up old bills for student loan debt easing. That's not how it works either. Congress is lying to you saying, oh my God, the debt is unsustainable. The debt is a keystroke. It's a keystroke. And the people that are saying anything else, should I use the word dull as spoons? Should I say moron? Should I say idiot? Loser? Microphone abuser? What should I call them? I don't know. Uninformed? That's too nice. Because they are informed, they choose to be ignorant. You notice the people that are loudest and proudest about their libertarian logic are the ones with the least knowledge about anything? Well, let me tell you, back in the day. Printing money, as they say, is not our issue. The issue is, remember, the next step in this process. We said sovereign currency. We said no longer on the gold standard. We said taxes don't fund spending. What's the next one? Sectoral balances. How do we know how much money to spend? Do we know how much money to spend? How do you know when we're going to have hyperinflation? Oh my God, hyperinflation! Zimbabwe! Zimbabwe! Weimar Republic! Sectoral balances. Private debt, public debt, rest of world meaning trade deficit. That's right, folks. Very good. Trade deficit or trade surplus. The United States is a, bam, you got it. Yes. They're a net importer. That means our dollars are leaving the country to buy goods and services. Is that a problem? No, it's not a problem if our federal government decides to spend. If our federal government lies and our population is willing to accept said lie and talk about debt and deficits and, yeah, Obama's great, he reduced the deficit. Oh, Bill Clinton, he was great. He put a surplus on the books, folks. In other words, he took more tax money out of the economy and screwed it, took money out. And yet you bragged about it. You bragged about that. Smack yourself once, then another time just for good measure, so you never say it again. Occupy Democrats does this all the time. They put these memes about how Bush squandered the surplus. Remember, government spending money in, taxes take money out. What's surplus? What's surplus? Should we drop the elbow off the top rope? Should we rake the eyes? Should we drop the elbow? Should we do a figure four leg lock, a suplex? What should we do to ridicule and maim them for being idiots? Shame them publicly? Taunt them and tease them? I don't know. But something has got to stop us from repeating this crap. Because now, let's get to where we are with Jill. Jill says we'll use quantitative easing. Quantitative easing isn't going to be the way it's done. First of all, the Federal Reserve controls what? Man, you guys are good. That's right. They handle monetary policy. They don't handle fiscal policy. They handle monetary policy. Their two charges, their key things that they focus on are A, what? That's right. That's right. Price stability. And what was the other one? Full employment. Very good, guys. You're doing good with this. I'm proud of you. Give yourself a round of applause. All right. So nowhere in there does the Federal Reserve talk about writing policy for student loan debt, does it? No, it doesn't. So Jill's wrong, right? What Jill is facing is a political challenge. Just like poverty is a choice, it's a political choice to make the elites feel more elite because there's people struggling and suffering. That's what's going on there, right? They've taught you guys that if you work hard, everything good will happen to you. This is all about social behavior modification. By making it so that it's hard to get this money, by making you struggle, they're instilling a societal value, a norm. And this is what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with our country is not broke at all. But Jill would not be able to wave a magic wand and erase student debt. It's not like that. Not even on a good day is it like that. She would actually have to get Congress to write a bill to eliminate student debt. That's a pretty big deal, isn't it? That's a tough deal. That's a lot of work. And it requires a population to get this stuff. And I don't think you get it, quite frankly. I still think a lot of you running around talking about raising taxes to pay for stuff. And that's pretty shameful now. There's no excuses now. You got plenty of room, plenty of links, plenty of truth out there. If you haven't read it by now, you are the cause of the revolution going into neutral. Not you alone, but people like you that haven't read those links. That said, it's too hard to read. I don't like economics. It's not really my thing. I don't really like it. But these guys are talking about balanced budget amendment. That's a really good thing, right? Balanced budget amendment is coming up, folks. They're going to be pushing for it. Are you going to be in place and know economics just enough to be able to push back on that? Or are you going to stupidly think that the federal government, which I've just explained, is anything but like you and I? Are you going to go around and think somehow or another the federal government needs to raise taxes to pay for things? Are you going to keep doing that? Are you going to keep bragging about reducing the deficit? Is that what you're going to do? Are you going to kill the nation more? If you've ever said that, one quick smack for killing the nation. One quick smack for making life harder for your kids. I just did it too because I used to do it before I woke up, before I learned economics. So I just smacked myself in real time so you could understand how important it is that you smack yourself for saying stupid things. Our taxes drive currency. They keep the value up. That's the only... If we eliminated taxes altogether, our dollars would literally be worth nothing. They would go up in smoke. The thing that makes our tax dollars worth something is the fact that at the end of the day, you can't pay your taxes. And let's do it. Let's think about it. Chicken necks, frog legs, oil, gold, diamonds, cars, favors. You can't pay your taxes in anything but United States dollars, US dollars, chink, chink. And that's what makes it valuable. Because if you don't pay it, what? Damn, you guys are getting it. You go to jail. That's right. Not a good thing. It's coercion. Sorry, libertarians. It is coercion. But it's also the reason why our dollar stays valuable like it does. Now, does it need to have the taxes raised on us? Do we even need taxes at that level? Heck, we could eliminate federal taxes on 95% of the country. We could create what we call Pigovian taxes, aka behavior modification taxes, to make things that are bad for society, to make things that are bad for the planet, like a carbon tax, whatever. But we don't need to raise taxes to pay for Medicare for all. We don't need to raise taxes to pay for student debt relief. We don't need to raise taxes to go to war. Have you ever? We don't raise taxes to go to war, do we? Think about it. But you think we got to raise taxes to pay for student loan debt, which is nowhere near the cost of these wars. You guys still think we borrow US dollars from China, don't you? Tell the truth. You still believe it. Hey, Mr. Chinese banker, sir, can we please borrow some United States dollars, please? You believe that crap. You do. I've seen you post it. And I'm here to shame you so you don't ever do it again. That's my job. I'm here to shame you and ridicule you and taunt you and tease you until you stop doing it. But what about the treasury bonds? What about the treasury bills? Folks, these countries buy treasury bills to stabilize their own currency, to stay liquid within the U.S. economy. If they cash out their T-bills, guess what they get a bunch of? Damn, you guys are getting this. That's right, a bunch of nothing, US dollars, whatever, man. With a keystroke. But it's going to be passed on to our children. Come on, man, stop buying that crap. Jill Stein is wrong. She's flat out wrong. She's not going to do quantitative easing to get rid of student loans by edict from on high. That's not going to happen. But you and I, can build enough momentum, an economic revolution where we demand they stop lying to us. Folks, we know Santa doesn't exist. We know it's you, Dad, with a pillow under your shirt coming down. Ho, ho, ho. We know you're the Easter Bunny. And that's what this is all about. Taxes at the federal level don't fund spending. We could have a job guarantee, a federal job guarantee to solve for income inequality. People would no longer live in dire situations like that. But taxes fund spending. The problem with socialism is you run out of other people's money. But if taxes don't fund spending, well, I guess we done Savat kicked that lie now, didn't we? Anyway, very, very important. Very important. Like, muy importante. I mean, the most important thing you'll ever see, and I've been saying this for a long, long time. Once you realize that we're fighting a pitched battle against the GOP, we're fighting a pitched battle about raising taxes to fund shit. Once you realize it's a crock of crap, that we're monetarily sovereign. And I'm telling you right now, when you see people, well, the Rothschilds, go, wabba, shut up. Wrong. In the beginning, you tell them, that's not true. But they'll keep it up because they're in bed with this idea. They love it. It's like an infatuation. They're like dating. They're like going steady with the Rothschild myth. It's not a myth. It's just the wrong answer. You hate the Rothschilds for all kinds of reasons. But don't hate them for Congress not doing their job. This is the deal. And until you demand better, you're not getting better. And until we know how to answer John Oliver, and until Jill Stein contacts Stephanie Kelton, Scott Fulweiler, Rohan Gray, heck, you could go to the JV team, which is me. I'm just John the Baptist, folks. I'm not the Christ. That's those people up there. I'm just the one waving my hand saying, hey, you're wrong. Here's the deal. Let me point you to the links. Trust me, once it starts going too deep, I'm like, I don't know either. It starts getting too deep. Once you break out formulas and stuff, I'm like, okay. All right, there's some number cruncher over there that can do that. But you guys need to get this, and you need to get it quickly, or we're never going to see a revolution, a real revolution. Because you're always going to march in place thinking taxes fund spending. You're always going to march in place with faulty logic about the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve does what? God, you guys are getting it. Yes! They handle monetary policy. They don't spend. That's God, you... That's right, it's Congress. Bravo. It's like... The crowd goes wild. You guys are getting it. I'm so proud of you. Now, let's talk about the states for just 1 second. States are not monetarily sovereign. That's why Puerto Rico's in the tank. Why? Is Puerto Rico a net importer or a net exporter? I'll be doggone, you're right. They are absolutely a net importer. So what happens to the dollars in Puerto Rico? You guys are getting it. The dollars leave the country or leave their little area and go somewhere else. What happens to Detroit? Is Detroit a net importer or a net exporter? Well, they used to be a net exporter, didn't they? Now they're a net importer, aren't they? And where are all the jobs? Right there with the dollars. That's right. They left the building. So when you think about my macro principle at the federal level, apply it to the state level. What's different about the United States and Greece? You're goddamn right. That's right. You got it. They're not monetarily sovereign anymore. They gave up their sovereignty to the euro. Folks, we're getting it, man. I'm so proud of you all. Thank you so much for paying attention. Now, the homework assignment. And I'm begging you, do the homework. We need warriors. We don't need a bunch of people just yelling for the sake of yelling. Doesn't do any good to cuss, say a bunch of stupid things. You got to know your shiznap. Read the links. The links are going to be embedded in the narrative of this. Copy them, send them around. 7 Deadly Innocent Frauds by Warren Mosler. What Are Taxes Really For by L. Randall Wray. We're going to have Monetary Sovereignty by Roger Malcolm Mitchell. We're going to have a whole bunch of links in there. Read them. Read them. We need you smart. We don't need you just angry. Be angry and smart. And if I have to choose between the two, as long as you'll follow, stay angry. But if not, then I need you smart. Anyway, this is Steve with Real Progressives, hoping you guys do the homework. Follow me. Let's start an economic revolution. When Real Progressives does our march for income justice, equality, economic justice for the United States, when we do that, I want to see 1 million people there. Don't forget, Sunday, October 23rd, me, Claudia, Jackie, and a whole cast of characters, Lee Camp, Tim Black, Tim Canova, we're all going to be in the nation's capital. Come see us. Come help us show that progressives are here to stay. Thank you all very much. I'll talk to you later.